Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the bustling town of Goingsnake. And there it is. Truly bustling. There's a lot going on here right now. Just kidding. There's nothing going on in Goingsnake. That was just me being facetious. But today is a big day for the thriving metropolis. Today, it's going to get its first residence. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be building today. So as I had mentioned in, I think, both of the previous episodes of the series, I really want to conform to the topography of this map as best as I can. I mean, it's 100% not going to be totally possible to not do any terraforming whatsoever, but I do want to conform to it as best as I can. So that being said, I needed to build another intersection, and I had kind of selected that spot that I was showing in the opening cinematic there, kind of like a little peninsula in a curve in the river. That's where I want downtown to ultimately be. So I needed an intersection over there so that we could get people to downtown. And that's what we're working on right now. But the problem with that was that it is just, the road going through there is cut into the side of a mountain. Like, it was extremely tight space that I was having to work with. But this was kind of the only spot that really was going to work for this intersection. So we're just kind of, and you can kind of see now zoomed out a little bit, I'm really just gonna have to make do with this as best as I can. And I ended up actually being pretty happy with the end result. So yeah, I started off just kind of building a little overpass for the whatever this thing is. I guess it's a highway, for the highway to go over the road. And then I wanted to make sure to leave the option opened to have this be a four-way intersection versus it just kind of connecting to a road going one way. Because actually I had a little bit of a change in direction while I was doing this build. At first I was going to go ahead and start working on the downtown for this episode, which would be on the other side of the river. I was going to build a bridge right across and just kind of get right to it. But as I was building, I started thinking about how there's no one living here. So building a commercial core right there was really going to be kind of a letdown because it was going to just be dead and abandoned. So I didn't really want to do that. And I ended up, instead of building across the river, I ended up going to the right side here. And I started building some nice little homes nestled into the mountains, which we'll see that in a little bit here. Getting a little bit ahead of myself. But yeah, for right now, I'm just working on this intersection. It ended up being a pretty similar layout to what I did for the one on the last episode, going to the power plant. Real compact. I did this little loop thing here. And this one actually ended up being probably a little bit more interesting than the previous one. I did some neat little zigzaggy stuff with the highway there because I was really crowded and that was the only way I could get it to really work. So yeah, you can kind of see it starting to take shape a little bit. It's definitely a little bit of a unique intersection, but I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. And I did some work with the lines, just trying to make it look a little more realistic and fill in these gaps. I don't do all of that on camera because it got a little bit tedious and redundant. Oh, one thing I did, and I don't think I've done it quite yet, but you're gonna probably start noticing it, and I think it's pretty funny. But I used the advanced vehicle mod, I think that's what it's called, to change the global maximum speed for those dumb little scooters that drive around. I changed their max speed to like 20 miles per hour or something ridiculous like that. So you're gonna start. Oh, there it went. So you're gonna start seeing these trains of cars going like 20 miles an hour because they're stuck behind the scooters, and it's a one-lane highway and they can't pass them. So I don't know. I don't really know why I did that. I just kind of thought it was funny, and I'm sticking with it for now. It's probably not going to last forever because I'm sure that's going to cause some massive issues once we actually have some traffic. But for right now, with our 0 population, we're just having fun. And yeah, we're building some lines. I spent a lot of time detailing this intersection, really. And like I've mentioned before, I'm trying to get these episodes down to closer to like 15 to 20 minutes, and this one again is another 30-minute one. So I'm seeing now maybe this is an opportunity to improve for future episodes, and maybe I won't spend quite so long showing myself putting decals on the street. I mean, I think it adds a ton in terms of the detail. It looks really good when it's all said and done, but A, I'm slow at it, and B, it's kind of all the same. It's definitely not the most exciting thing. Oh, there we go. I think I skipped a little bit there, so that's something. But yeah, I also gave it the same treatment again in terms of the barriers. I tried to just put these brightly colored ones at spots where there's more of a risk of people ramming into them if they're not paying attention. And then I did the gray barriers along the side of the roads in places where I felt like it was a little risky if someone drove off the road. So that's what's going on here. And I was pretty happy with the way this came out. So I think I'm pretty much done with the lines now, and I'm doing a little bit of decorating. There's a word I'm looking for, landscaping. I'm doing a little bit of landscaping in the center of the intersection, and I mean, this was super simple, but I ended up being pretty happy with the way it looked. It does a nice job of covering everything, and it was just a nice quick and dirty way to fill in some of that green. I was thinking a little bit after I finished this build about sort of how I handle decorating intersections. In the past, my mantra has always just been to kind of fill it as much as I can. But I don't know if that's always the best solution. I think that there's times when a little bit more green can look nice. So I'm sure I'm going to be building more intersections here in the future on this map. I'm still figuring out whether I want to do like a second highway at some point. But yeah, that's something I might experiment with for some future ones, trying to do a little bit less coverage, and I mean, it's still detailed, but just a little bit more tastefully. One issue I was having, and I really don't know what's causing this, but this intersection and the other one too, at either side of the overpass, it seems like the cars are treating it as a stoplight. And I mean, I went in there with advanced traffic mod, and it's 100% definitely not a stoplight. So I don't know why they're doing that, but you'll see every now and then everyone just stops, and I cannot for the life of me figure out. There, that guy just did it. I don't know why they're doing that. I'm hoping I can get that sorted out. I've tried tweaking it, but I don't know what it is that's causing that. And yeah, I'm still just covering everything with bushes, and then I go in with surface painter and get rid of all of that ugly brown stuff. I know I could hide that with Hide It, but I kind of like it in certain situations, so I don't want it to be completely gone. And it's not something that takes that long to correct, so I've just been going through and manually doing it after. But yeah, all in all, I was super happy with the way that the middle of this came out. I think it looks pretty nice. It's a a little, I don't know, a little newbie, it feels like. Like, it's just lines, but I think it does the job. And I really need to put the random tree rotator mod back on, because I love these trees, but them being rotated the exact way every time does kind of, it really, really sets off my OCD. It's not right. So if I can remember, that's going to be a fix for next episode. I don't know if I'll go back and change these. I guess I might as well, but definitely for future trees, they need to be randomly rotated. One thing I was trying to do, I might go in with Theme Mixer and find a new texture for the steeper hills or cliffs or whatever, because I don't hate these. I think they're fine, but I don't love my cliffs. I feel like in order to make them look good, I really have to throw some rocks on top of them, and I don't want to have to do that for every single cliff. I'd like to be able to just have cliffs and like the way they look, so that might be something that changes in the future too. I'm so antsy with mods. Every episode I make changes. I actually, between recording the building of this episode and recording the cinematics for this episode, I actually added a ton of stuff. I added the advanced LOD mod because I was having some issues with some of my prop weeds looking horrible from anywhere more than like 500 meters. And then I also added the original Sunlight Daylight Classic. Yeah, that one. Original Sunlight. I added Daylight Classic and Cube Map Replacer so my skies look nice. So that's fun. That's a nice little treat to look forward to. We've got clouds coming up in the future. So yeah, I guess I'm done with that intersection now. And I'm starting to work on what will be our first neighborhood. So to start off, I'm just building what's going to kind of be the main road cutting through it. And I'm thinking, so we've got just some nice little valleys running through the bottoms of the mountains here. And they really kind of wind their way around quite a bit. And there's a lot of area that I think I want to kind of do similarly to what I did here. But just to start off, I'm just starting with pretty much what I've built out here, this one little valley, and I just want to fill it with houses. I didn't want to go too crazy and do anything too dense because this is a small town. Just enough to start getting some cars driving around on my roads and start to get a little bit of a population. I think we ended up with a couple hundred people. And all in all, I was pretty happy with how it came out. I think I need to download some new house assets. I mostly used vanilla and then a couple other ones that I had downloaded, but I wasn't super excited about the assets that I had, but it still came out pretty good all in all, I think. And I'm really happy with the road layout that I put together. I think it looks really nice, and it leaves plenty of room for growth in the future. I've got a couple of other spots where I'm planning on kind of expanding it. One of which is here. I'm going to keep expanding it off to the right in the future, but for right now it just kind of stops right here in this little valley. And then I can also still go up quite a bit. So there's definitely some room for more houses. I don't know if all of that's going to be done on camera. We'll see. Because it is going to kind of be pretty similar, so that might just be something I do for fun sometime. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And here I was just, because I'm about to start putting in the houses, and I was trying to figure out if there was an option in Hide It to remove all the trees. There's not, but I did find another mod that does it later on, so I ended up not having to worry about it too much. But for the first ones that spawned, I did end up going through with prop it up and deleting the trees. And so I wasn't really sure exactly how I wanted to handle the actual placement of the homes. What I was kind of thinking at first was that I would build a theme and then I would just zone and let the houses grow. And I think that could have worked. I think I just didn't really set myself up for success at the beginning because I do have all the vanilla crap attached to all these, and it just didn't start off looking good. And I think I just kind of bailed on this idea a little bit. So yeah, I started off doing this, and then like halfway through, I started just plopping the houses. I felt like it ultimately ended up being quicker than fighting with all the growables. I think I might revisit this method though, because I do like this sort of randomness that it adds. I don't know. Either way works. But yeah, in the end, I end up with this weird mix of zoned and plopped houses. You can't really tell, but it was a thing that happened. And here I wanted to have nice dense tree coverage. I didn't feel like it was quite dense and consistent enough the way that I had originally built it out. So I just put a few more trees in here. And this was an interesting build too, because I didn't really detail it that much. It was mostly just putting the trees down and then putting the houses down. There were a couple spots that I detailed a little bit more, but for the most part, I was really just kind of trying to get my head around everything and come up with a system that I was happy with so that I could kind of replicate that for the future and keep growing the city. And I think I accomplished that. It was a little bit of a struggle, but I do think I figured out how I wanted to handle it. And another thing that was tough too with this build was dealing with all the elevation changes and those random cliffs that spawn around all of the houses. So a lot of this was me kind of fighting with that and just trying to get a nice steady look. I love these leaves. I was pretty generous with these leaf assets. I also put a bunch of these gulo weeds in because I thought that was a good idea, but I ended up deleting those. I ended up not being too happy with the way they looked. It's not that they were a bad asset. I think they were a really great asset, actually. I didn't feel like they ended up fitting, so I threw those in there and then I deleted them shortly after. And here, this house was pretty important to me because it's right on top of this cliff here, right along the highway, and I know that that's going to be something that's going to be featured pretty heavily in my cinematic shots and stuff. It's a real prominent spot. So I wanted to take some time and detail it a little bit more. And this was a growable, so I was working on it, and then another house started growing, but whatever. So yeah, I spent some time detailing it, and then because it was a growable, it ended up turning into a different house later on. And then I ended up having to come back to it and re-detail it. But this was the first iteration of this house. And then the second one was basically the same. It just had a different type of tile that it used. So I replaced the tiles and kind of like reworked things a little bit. But it was basically the same situation, just a different house. And I don't know what happened here. I broke Find It. Whenever I was using Find It to place those tiles, it started turning white. But whatever, that's fine. So yeah, I thought this house looked pretty nice. And this whole mountain top with the handful of houses just kind of leaning down from it, I think looks real nice when it's all said and done. So this was something new I was trying. With me being a little new to the modding world, we've got the power plant way on the other side of the map. So it's not currently getting any power to these houses because I don't want to build power lines all the way over here. And I thought a solution to that was going to be the substations, what I was thinking, I thought that they worked by basically just adding these to my power grid, and I was going to be able to connect my power plant to these houses with these substations. But I guess that's not how they work. It ended up just providing me like 10 watts of power, which was enough to power like 8 houses. And yeah, that's not gonna work. I didn't want to have to build like 50 of these things to try to power this area. So I built that, I put that there and detailed it, and I think it looks pretty cool. So I'm gonna keep it there, but it ended up not actually serving the purpose that I wanted it to serve. So we've just got this little substation just off the side of the road there. And yeah, as you can see, half my houses don't have power, but whatever, that's fine. And this is where I did all that other stuff, and then I realized I had built these roads and I forgot to zone them. And so I decided to try plopping these ones, just to kind of see how that felt, and I don't know, give me a little bit more fine tuning. And by now I had figured out how to get most of the vanilla crap off that I didn't want. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of slowly putting these together. And this house was a bummer because I really like it, but it's got this like, it's glowing, and I don't know why exactly. It's one of the nicer models, but it was glowing. It is what it is, though. But yeah, so I just wanted to try that out and see how it felt versus growing them. And the level of control that it gave me, I thought it ended up feeling better. So I think in the future, that's probably what I'm going to be doing. Just find a handful of houses that I like and just plop them down for my neighborhoods. I was pretty pleased with the way that this area came out. I think I already mentioned it. I'm not 100% set on this area, and I may do a little bit of reworking to it at some point in the future. I definitely want to get some new assets. Maybe I'll keep it. I don't know. We'll see. It could be fun to kind of keep the older areas and see how my building progresses as we go, but I don't know. It's probably not going to change anytime soon because I'm more focused on growing. And yeah, since this is just a little Appalachian suburb, I really want the trees to kind of dominate, and that also makes it so I can kind of build this nice sprawling area without having to detail it too terribly much, because if I was detailing each and every house here, that was going to take me way too long, especially when my main goal for this is just growth. And I mean, fall is kind of like the driving force behind this build. I really just want this nice mountain town in the fall. So the fact that, you know, this is a good opportunity to really incorporate those trees was pretty big too. I thought this was a neat little thing I put in here. I have this little trailer park pack because I do want to build a little trailer park at some point. I don't know when I'm going to get to that, but I already have some assets for it, and I've been just kind of throwing them in here and there also because I just like the assets. So I wanted to have a couple spots where I had homes that were not really on the main road and just kind of off doing their own thing. And so that's what I was doing there. I thought that those looked pretty cool, kind of set off to the side a little bit. And then the ADD kicked in a little bit, and I remembered that I hadn't put exit ramps or exit signs at the ramps yet. So I went and I just grabbed the ones that I had built for the power plant exit, and I popped them in over here. So not the most exciting thing in the world, but I mean, I do really, really, really like the way that being newer to modding and coming from console, the fact that I can put freaking customized exit signs into my maps is like the most mind-blowing breakthrough in mankind's history. It's so cool. I love that. So yeah, every exit's gonna be getting an exit sign, and it's just such a cool level of detail too. Like, that looks so good. They look so good. I love them. And this was the last thing I did in this build, I think. Just one more, like I mentioned, I like having these houses just kind of off the beaten path a little bit, and I'll probably do more of those going forward. I only did a handful for this build, but this is definitely my favorite part of this build, I think. I mean, I liked the intersection too, but this house, as far as the residential that I built, I thought turned out awesome. So I threw, and this is another one of those trailer homes, I think. I just threw it on top of this mountain here, and there was sort of like a dip running down the side of the mountain, and it was kind of a natural, obvious spot to put the driveway. So I just put a dirt driveway in, and then I didn't want, because I don't really like the way that dirt road looks. I think my LUT or whatever is a little weird with it. It's a weird color. So I wanted to kind of cover it up with decals and make it a little bit more like just a rural homes inconspicuous driveway. And so I ended up just covering it with grass, and you can kind of still see a little bit of the road. And I mean, that was pretty much exactly what I wanted. So I was happy with the way that went. I wanted to do a little bit of like wear to it also to make the road a little bit more obvious. But the issue I was running into was, since it's such a steep slope, all of the decals that I was putting into, they lie flat. So I was getting like a little bit of decal, and then it would just clip into the mountain, and it had a really harsh line, and it just didn't look good. So I kind of just had to settle with the grass, and it looks good enough. I'm not overly concerned about it. And yeah, I just gave it a little bit of detail, nothing too crazy. I figured this seemed like the kind of house that would have some old junk cars just like stuck there that, I don't know what the purpose of those old junk cars that you see in rural houses are. Maybe they're working on them, maybe they're for parts, maybe they're keepsakes, I don't know. But whatever the purpose, they've got some here. And I threw some trees in. I put a fence down because, they're on the side of a cliff, and you don't need the kids falling off the side of the cliff to their doom on the driveway below. So they got a nice little fence. I was playing around with some decals there to try to make it look a little more worn, but I didn't really get anywhere. And then I just did some rows of different bush and flower props and stuff to kind of line the driveway a little bit there, just to give it a little bit more form, I guess. I don't know. And threw down some fall trees and some bushes and stuff just to give it a little bit more detail. And yeah, so there you can kind of see what happens if a decal goes awry. And that was kind of the situation I was running into a lot. I love that sheriff's car driving up their driveway. Oh, one more thing I did. This is the last thing I did, I think. I don't know. So I guess you could say I'm from Raleigh. That's where I lived for most of the last 10 years. And there's this street in Raleigh that I used to drive down a lot, Ridge Road. And it doesn't look exactly like this, like what I just built. It's not quite that uniform. It's just like wild trees, but it's got these really pretty oak trees that go right up against the road. And it's kind of a 2-lane residential road like this. And in the fall, they make this tunnel of just red and orange, and it's so cool, and I really like the way that it looks. So that was kind of my inspiration here. I wanted to create a road that just kind of blanketed you with these fall leaves, and I wanted to put a bunch of those leaf decals in and really just make it be fall street, and just have there be a ton of color. And that's kind of what I was doing back there. It didn't look incredible, but I was pretty happy with it. Anyway, that's a wrap for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, and here's some cinematics.